back to my channel. Today we are officially under the 3-day mark of our cruise on board the Carnival Panorama. So as you can see, we're getting a little bit excited. We've got our ducks ready, we've got our magnets ready, we're just ready to go. And with that, I wanted to share with you guys just some cruise tips and tricks that I have. We're going to be going over some stuff that I do beforehand, moving into another packing video that I'll have coming out in the next few days. And then we'll have more tips and tricks of kind of what I do once I'm on the ship, just to make my vacation go a little more smoother, a little more relaxing, of course. So if you're new here, please subscribe, please like this video. Stay tuned for more upcoming vlogs of our actual cruise, of what's on the cruise, some of the excursions we're doing, and the amazing ports we'll be in within Mexico. But yeah, please stay tuned, and here we go. All right, guys, moving on to our very first tip when it comes to packing your things. One of my first things I always want to do is make sure I'm packing both comfortable outfits as well as nice outfits. Obviously, when you're just going to the pool, going to the ports, and you're just going to the beach for the day, you're going to want just comfy pants, comfy shorts, things like that, tank tops, all sorts of just more comfy style clothes. But then when you get on the ship for like the end of the night, when you're going to the dining room, specialty restaurant, even some of the shows, you're gonna want a little more nicer of an outfit, maybe some dress pants, maybe a dress for the girls, skirts, jeans, even for guys are good. In the dining room in general, they usually recommend you dressing a little bit nicer, so it's always good just to have that awareness of kind of like the day to night outfits, and make sure you've got comfy outfit options as well as just nice outfits for the dining room. Adding on to tip number 1, it's also good to understand that I don't know about every cruise line, but specifically on Carnival, they're gonna have onboard laundry service options. If you are a Diamond or Platinum member, you usually get 1 to 2 loads included in your cruise for free, so you don't need to overpack. And then even if you are just a first-time cruiser and you're bringing clothes on board, they will offer laundry services as well, especially on those 7 to 8 night cruises. So always be aware of that for just a little bit of an extra charge for newer guests on cruises, that the laundry services will be an opportunity for you if you don't want to overpack your clothes, so just be aware of that as well. All right, moving on to tip number 2, another kind of pre-cruise thing just to be aware of is no matter if you're driving, if you're flying, if you're even just a few hours away, I always recommend trying to get there the day before. You never know what's going to happen if your flight gets delayed or even canceled, if you get a flat tire driving to the port. I think it's never bad to be early. And sometimes it's even nice just to kind of stay at a hotel the night before. If you're going out of Long Beach like we are on the Carnival Panorama, they have the Queen Mary right there as an option to stay. And I think that just kind of gets you in vacation mode. It gets you excited, you're with your family, you're looking forward to going on this ship the next day. So I would just always recommend trying to go out at least a day early just to kind of prep and know that you're there and that nothing can go wrong the day you depart on the cruise. All right, moving on to tip number 3, we're going into the bring your own alcohol policy. So if you're going on a ship and you have a checked bag, each individual is allowed 1 bottle of wine per checked bag. So you can't even bring like a wine cocktail or a margarita mix or something like that. It's only 1 bottle of wine per person. So just be aware of that, because if it's more or less or anything else, they're probably gonna take it. But at the end of the day, you can always buy a drink package, or if you're not wanting the drink package because it's a little too much, you can just buy a couple of drinks every once in a while on the ship, so you can also do that as well. But always just be aware it is 1 bottle of wine per person. Another big thing, tip number 4, when it comes to packing, you're gonna have a lot of clothes, and if you aren't doing your laundry and you're going through clothes and you want your room to stay a little more organized, I always recommend bringing a foldable laundry basket. They come in about a size this big, so it doesn't take up very much space. It's very flat when you pack it up. And at the end of the day, you throw it in the corner of your room. It just gives you an opportunity to know what clothes are dirty, when you have to pack and leave, and it just keeps your room a lot more organized. I will link the one off Amazon that I get in my description. It's really cheap, it's really easy, and at the end of the day, it keeps your room really organized. It keeps it organized when you're packing to go back home, so definitely recommend that. Another thing that I recommend packing, especially if you are planning on sharing a room with multiple people, if it's going to be your husband or your wife and your kids all in the same room, usually, specifically on Carnival and Royal, I know they usually have 2 regular USA style outlets, as well as just like 1 to 2 USB ports sometimes in the lamps on the side beds, but it's always when everybody's getting ready at the same time and someone needs it to charge their phone and somebody needs it to blow their hair dry, you're gonna run out of outlets. So I always recommend packing just one of the, again, Amazon basics, I will link it below, multi-outlet USB outlets. This is just a simple one with only 3, but there are bigger ones out there that'll have these, it'll have the USBs, it'll have the new Type-Cs for some of the newer iPhones. I always recommend this because just on the last cruise I went on, it was just me and my mom, and it was a smaller ship, so there was only 2 regular style outlets, so we had both our phones charging, and then there was no other outlets available in the main room other than the bathroom. So this is always just another key thing that I really like to recommend if you plan on sharing a room with all of your family. All right guys, moving on to the next tip that I recommend. This is again another pre-packing tip. Always bring a lanyard for your sail and sign card. If you're a first-time cruiser and you aren't aware of what this is, it's about the size of this little tag here. It's gonna have your name on it, it's gonna have your dining time, it's gonna have your muster station. Pretty much it's what you need to do pretty much any and all things on board the ship. It's how you purchase drinks, it is how you purchase alcohol, it is how you get on and off the ship at the ports, it gets you into your room. It's pretty much, you need it on your body at all times when you're on the ship. So I always recommend throwing a lanyard on. You can throw your ID in there, you can throw your sail and sign card in there, and you know it's right there. You don't have to carry a purse around. I think it's just a simpler option, and again, I always recommend trying to purchase that lanyard on Amazon or at Walmart before you get on the ship, because they will have options on board, but they are usually pretty hefty in price. So if you're trying to save a little money and be less stressed of losing that card when you're on board, I definitely recommend buying one beforehand. I will again link a simple Amazon one in the description so that you guys will have that as well. And for all those social media whizzes out there, I've got another great tip for you guys. Pretty much for every sailing dates, like for my cruise, I'm going July 13th through the 20th on board the Carnival Panorama. There is usually a specific Facebook group for your sailing group and sailing date. And with that, if you are again a first-time cruiser, or maybe it's your first time on board a ship, when you join those groups, there's going to be people throwing out questions constantly about specialty dining, or which excursions are the best, or which drinks and bars do you think are the best. And if you are someone who's a little stressed, you want to know a little bit more beforehand, I think when you join these Facebook groups, I mean, there's questions popping out constantly. Pretty much anything you'd ever wonder would probably be answered in those Facebook groups. So I always recommend trying to check those out and joining them really early beforehand, just so that you can help yourself be as prepared as possible. All right, kind of moving on again to the idea of just knowing your ship, knowing where everything is, things like that. I know a lot of people like to be surprised when they go on ships, but I often find it easier to get to know your ship beforehand. I like to read those Facebook groups and know which foods and which drinks are the best. I like the idea of watching YouTube videos and watching tours of the ship and kind of seeing where everything is and making myself aware, because I love getting on the ship and exploring and walking around and stuff, but at the end of the day, if I want a guy's burger, I want to know where it is. If I'm going to a comedy show, I'd like to know just where it is so I don't have to worry about wasting time kind of being lost per se. Even once you're on the ship itself, you can use one of the Carnival Hub apps, or if you're on Royal, the Royal app, and it'll have a ship layout of the deck plan for each thing. But at the end of the day, I always recommend trying to check out your ship beforehand, getting to know it, of course, so that you can get on and be ready to go. All right, and moving on to a tip regarding excursions, 2 things. I always recommend 1, booking in advance, and 2, booking through your cruise line. I know sometimes those pricing looks a little hefty on those excursions, but at the end of the day, paying that price and being through your cruise line keeps you safe. It keeps you from, if you go through a third party on an excursion and not specifically through your cruise line, if you get a flat tire coming back to the port, or the excursion gets the ship time wrong and you're trying to get back to the ship and you're running late, that third party has no way of getting a hold of Carnival per se and saying, hey, so-and-so is running late on this excursion, please hold the ship. But if you go through Carnival or Royal Caribbean or Disney, whoever your specific cruise line is, if an excursion through that cruise line is running late, they have the ability to reach out to the cruise line and let them know, and they will wait for you. So I always recommend go through the cruise line. At the end of the day, I pretty much always go through my cruise line, and I always find really great excursions. I've never had any problems. So at the end of the day, always book through your cruise line and always book in advance, because a lot of those top tier excursions will always sell out, especially in the busy summer months when most of the cruises in general are just going to be sold out. All right, and we are officially moving on to tips once you are on board. So tip number one, if you're a fellow cruiser like me who goes quite often, you know this, and you're gonna also probably tell everybody the same thing, but number one thing, always do your muster station first. If you don't know what a muster station is, it's pretty much in the act of an emergency. It is the place that you go to meet before you get on the lifeboat to evacuate the ship in an emergency. Pretty much everybody has different ones. It'll be on that sail and sign card that I mentioned earlier. When you get on the ship, specifically through Carnival, it'll tell you what your muster station is on that sail and sign card. You'll go find that muster station on board the ship. On boarding day, there's crew members all over the place telling you where each muster station is. If you don't know where to find it, you will go there. They scan you in. They make sure you learn how to put a life vest on and what to do in the act of an emergency. Maybe takes 5 minutes at most and you're done. And then from there, your vacation is set. Specifically on Carnival, when you're doing that muster station, once you're on board, you cannot purchase any alcohol until you do your muster station. So if you're wanting to get on the ship and immediately go to a bar, go drink, you're not going to be able to do that. So I always recommend hit that muster station first, get it done, get it over with. I know it sucks, but at the end of the day, it'll make your vacation come a lot faster. Next thing, you can also do this before your cruise for the onboard check-in process, as well as to see a cruise countdown, but always download your cruise line app. On Carnival specifically, you can download it beforehand, and that's how you'll do your online check-in, as I said before. And you can put the date in that your cruise leaves, so you can kind of check it every now and then to see that countdown, which I enjoy. But at the end of the day, once you're on the ship, once you're going into airplane mode, which another tip, always go into airplane mode, because if your phone is roaming, be prepared for that cell phone bill to be very, very high. So always go into airplane mode. Once you do that, go into your hub app. That will be where everything is. That is how you can book specialty dining. It's how you can book excursions if you're waiting until you're on the ship. It'll show you the fun times of what events are going on, what time it is, where the event is at. If you are not purchasing the onboard Wi-Fi option, you can purchase a $5 messaging option, which is through the Carnival app. And if your family downloads that, you can become friends with them again. It is $5 a person, and that is how you can talk to family members that are also on board the ship. Obviously, you can purchase walkie-talkies or something beforehand, but if you want something simple, just on the phone so that the kids have it, download the hub app, $5 a person. You'll already have the app anyway, because that's how you'll keep track of all the events and your dining reservations and all of that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, download it, $5, and you can message your whole family, so always be aware of that. All right, we have another once you are on board tip. So my number one thing, when you're boarding the ship, if you choose to not carry your bags on personally, your big suitcases with all your clothes, bathing suits, whatever you have in there, I always recommend taking an extra backpack, a beach bag, something like that, that has bathing suits or your ID or maybe a dress to change into that night for the dining room. Because on certain cruises I've had on that first night, sometimes your luggage will not get delivered to your room until 7, 8 o'clock that night, once you're already off to sea after you've gotten away from the port. So I always recommend anything that you think you need within those first 4 to 5 hours of being on the ship, put it in a backpack and just carry it on, because you never know what'll happen. You never know if your luggage will come in an hour, if it'll come in 5 hours, and especially if you're one of those people that wants to get on and immediately go vacation mode. If you want to go on the water slides, if you want to jump into the pool, pack that bathing suit, pack some sunscreen, sunglasses, portable charger, anything you think you might need when you're initially getting on, throw it in a backpack, carry it on, because those check bags will take a couple hours once you are on board. Another cruise tip to be aware of, once you are allowed to go into your stateroom, most of the time, just normal size carry-on and check bags should fit pretty nicely under your bed. So always be aware of that. Sometimes they'll have the ladders in the way of the bunk beds, but if you're not planning on using them, your room steward can take those out for you if you're wanting to slide your luggage under the bed. I think, again, same as that laundry basket that I mentioned earlier. If you are sharing a room with multiple people, I always find it really nice when you have ways to organize things, get things out of the way so it's a little less crowded. So just be aware that once you unpack and get everything gone, you can just slip your luggage right under your bed. All right, moving on to kind of like food tips. Once you are on board, you get on the ship. I know it sounds crazy, but I always recommend skip the buffet on the first day. It always gets overly crowded, overly busy, overly just messy. It's never fun to just get on the ship and immediately have to wait in a super long line. I always recommend checking out some of the specialty restaurants, like on the Carnival Panorama that we're heading on, Cucina. They will have a free lunch option when you get on. So some of those specialty restaurants that you might not want to pay extra for later in your sailing, you can go on there and grab a free lunch option on the first day. Or you might want to check out the Blue Iguana Cantina or Guy's Burger, of course, the greatest place in my opinion on any cruise ship for just a quick option. At the end of the day, the buffet does get really, really busy, so I always recommend checking out one of the alternative dining options because that buffet will always be there with those same options, so definitely do that. Kind of moving on to what I just discussed with specialty dining, I always recommend, again, going on Royal Caribbean's website or Carnival's website in advance and checking out their specialty dining options. These are going to be an upcharge that will not be included in your sailing. Mattering on if you're going to a steakhouse or maybe one of the Italian restaurants, prices will differ between usually sometimes from $20 all the way up to $60 per person, so just make sure you're aware of that. But at the end of the day, most of the restaurants will sometimes have reservation options once you are on board, so you don't have to worry about booking them in advance. I personally always do, especially if I have a bigger group coming with me. If I know I want to go to a restaurant, I'll just book it in advance and pay it, because at the end of the day, if I want some Italian food at a specialty restaurant, I want to book it so that I know I'll be able to go there. So I always recommend check those specialty restaurants out if you're looking for a more elevated dining experience for just a little bit more of an upcharge. Another thing that you need to be aware of, I know this is specifically on Carnival, I don't know about other cruise lines, but when you are purchasing a drink package, an automatic 18 to 20% gratuity charge will be added per every alcoholic beverage that you purchase. This will be the same for like the dining room people who wait on you. They will add that extra charge prior to your sailing. You can't opt out of that. I know my family usually does, and they'll save it till the last night to tip them in cash just because it's easier. But at the end of the day, if you're not wanting that gratuity added every single time automatically, you don't have to do that. You can opt out and then you don't have to pay for it. You'll just tip in person as time goes on throughout your ship. Same for like your room steward, things like that. Just be aware, don't ever add, if you see that automatic gratuity already added, there'll be then an additional tip line. So then you're adding that 18 to 20% plus. If you want to add more, of course, always add more. But if you're only wanting to tip 18 to 20%, that additional tip line, just be aware of that and don't add another 20% to that. All right, moving on to one more thing I kind of forgot to mention earlier. If you are, again, a first-time cruiser, I always recommend speaking to Carnival, speaking to your travel agent about room placement, because when you're in the back of the ship, if you have a room in the very back, you're gonna feel that rocky movement, especially on rough waters. So I'm always specifically looking for a room kind of just at that mid-ship point, because if you're reaching some bad weather, you're usually not going to feel it as much if you were in the front or the back of the ship. Especially if you're a first-time cruiser too, always pack the patches that go behind your ear as well as the non-drowsy Dramamine, just because at the end of the day, you'd much rather be safe than sorry. And I've cruised with many people now that do suffer from motion sickness, and they take that and they feel a lot better and they can enjoy your vacation. Always pack your medicine in advance, whether it's that or Advil or antacids, any of that, because they again will offer it on board for purchase, but it's usually a lot more expensive. So just always come prepared, always be aware, and always book that room mid-ship. Now these last two aren't really tips, but they're just recommendations from somebody who travels a lot and gets to know the people that they come across when they travel. Always be kind to the crew members. They are there obviously to make your vacation the best it can be, to make it memorable, things like that. But they are people too, they're humans too. They're gonna make mistakes, they're gonna miss your drink order or mess up something, but at the end of the day, just be kind to them, because they are working hard, they're working crazy hours just to be there for you on your vacation. So I always just recommend give them a smile, always say thank you, always be grateful for them. You can even bring them little care packages. I've done that in the past, where you can bring them little candy bars and waters and things like that. So I always recommend doing that if you want to be nice to your room stewards or the bartenders or your dining room waiters and waitresses, so always be aware of that. And then lastly, just enjoy your vacation. I know it sounds like a lot coming from, well, you have to plan this and be aware of this and always have that, but at the end of the day, these videos, why I'm making them, why other creators are making them, is because we've been through it. We've been that stressed first time cruiser, or if you're just going on a new ship and you're stressed, we want to make your vacation more simple, more relaxed, more calm. So always, these are just some of the top tips that come through my brain when I'm prepping for a cruise, when I'm on a cruise. But obviously, if you have any other questions, always feel free to write me in the comments, or again, my Instagram, lifeofa.traveler, the same as the YouTube channel. Feel free to direct message me always. Any questions, any concerns you have. I love helping other people. I love talking about cruising, about Disney, about traveling in general. I always love hearing from you guys. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe, because we have a whole 8-day vacation coming up on a beautiful ship that I actually have never been on. I've got my parents, my grandparents, my boyfriend, everybody's gonna be with me. So it's gonna be a fun-filled week of trivia and excursions and water slides, and there's going to be a vlog pretty much every day on that cruise that we'll have coming out in the next couple weeks. So definitely feel free to subscribe if you want to stay for more videos. Appreciate everybody that came to watch this cruise tips and tricks. I hope maybe there was something that you learned today or something that'll help you for your future cruise. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'll always be here for you guys. Thanks for watching.